Hiya, it's Jamie Armstrong again, and welcome back to our video casts. For me, this is one of the most exciting parts of this process. This is where if we needed a rocket to achieve what we want to achieve, this is where we get the fuel for that rocket. As a team, as a company, or as a 5.5 ton elephant. We've recognised our untrue limit assumptions. This is where we remove it and we replace it with an empowering assumption, which then takes us into the third part of the process, which releases our potential to achieve what we want to achieve. So a very quick recap. Assumptions can either limit us, hold us back, the ball and chain round our leg, or they can empower us to achieve what we want to achieve or take that first step towards achieving what we want to achieve or feeling the way we want to feel. We identify the untrue assumptions by putting them through the simple filter system that we call within the Think Environment work and within Head Coach the criteria. The criteria has two parts to it, logic and information. And logic is A equals B, inexorably linked, that is an absolute fact. If the assumption is logical and therefore it's a fact, it is not an assumption, it is a truth. The other part of the filter system is information, the evidence, and we talked about looking at the evidence for and against the case. If we were in court, it would be the defence and the prosecutor. We've talked about the thinker and the prover. We're looking for as much evidence as possible to support our thinking of whether something's true, possibly true or untrue. Let's look at our elephant. The untrue limiting assumption we have identified with the elephant. The elephant's thinking, there's no way that I can pull that stick out the ground and run free. Now, my assumption that I'm looking as my goal is to add value to my coaching through using technology. The untrue limiting assumption I have to achieve my goal is there is no way I can learn to use technology to add value to my coaching. Now, having run both of them through the criteria in the last video cast, they've come up as untrue. They're not logical and we don't have information. So first of all, step one is we recognise the untrue limiting assumption that's holding us back. Step two is we remove the limiting assumption that's holding us back. Step three is we now want to replace that with the fuel to ignite our engine to achieve what we want to achieve. That fuel is our empowering assumption. Now, if we go back to Newton's law of force equals mass times acceleration, we could apply that. If we want the force to achieve what we want to achieve, we are the mass. The acceleration will come from the empowering assumption. That will give us the energy to combine with us to move us forward and create force. The more empowering the assumption, the more fuel we have, the more acceleration we have, and the more forceful we will be in order to achieve what we want to achieve or feel the way we want to feel. So step three. We identify our untrue limit assumption and we now flip that and turn it on its head and replace that with an empowering assumption. So we want to remove the limiting assumption. Now we do that within Think Environment work with what Nancy calls an incisive question. The incisive question replaces the limiting assumption with an empowering assumption and puts it in the form of a question, which then ignites our thinking and our creativity to find the solutions to allow us to move forward. The more empowering, the more solutions we'll find and the more forceful we'll be in order to achieve what we want to achieve. So, the elephant's thinking, there's no way that I can break free from this stick. Now we know that that's untrue. We've applied logic, we've looked at information, it's an untrue limit assumption. So if we go into Dr. Dolittle mode and we can talk to the animals, or we can talk to the elephant and we can say to the elephant, if that's an untrue assumption, if that's not true, what are your words for what is true and liberating for you, that's empowering for you? The elephant may well turn around and say, I'm a hugely powerful and forceful animal. Now that is a liberating and empowering assumption. That will allow the elephant, combined with its 5.5 ton mass, to give it the acceleration to rip that stick out of the ground and move away and run free. That's empowering assumption. If you look at me, what I'm trying to achieve is I'm wanting to enhance and add value to my coaching through using technology. The limiting assumption, the untrue limiting assumption that's holding me back, there's no way I can learn to use technology to add value to my coaching. Now, we know that's untrue, it's not logical and there's no information to back that up. So, flick that, turn that into an empowering assumption. What's the opposite of that for me? What's the most empowering thing that I could think about that would allow me to take that first step? Simply, simply for me is, if it's untrue, if that's an untrue assumption, my word for what is true and liberating is I can learn by just giving it a go and learn on the job. So therefore, I can learn by just giving it a go. So you can see how it works. That's part one. We'll do part two in the next video cast. So part one is we've identified the limit assumption, we've removed it, and we've replaced it with the fuel to ignite our engine to achieve what we want to achieve, feel the way we want to feel. You can see how they managed to put a rocket on the moon because they fueled it with empowering assumptions. Thank you very much. I look forward to talking to you in the next and final video cast.